And obviously, there's a lot going on within it in terms of what it means to be an audience member, what it means to be an actor, what it means to be a director. Also, obviously, on the surface level, like dating, critique of men's ability to control and use women, basically to make themselves feel more powerful, and to try to force women into this sort of sexual fantasy sort of situation. It's the bulk of the film on one level. So Scotty, he feels very strong at the start of the film. He seems to be a powerful detective, right? He's so sure that he's able to save Madeline. And the film is much more horrible on a second viewing because he realizes she's just been acting the entire time. And every time that he feels like he's helping this person, she's just leading him along. So on second viewing, when she comes out, Scotty's basically set up as an audience member, just like all of us. And the first time that we see Madeline is in you remember the red restaurant at the start of the film, where Alfred has her, leads her forward. Hitchcock and the director of photography, Robert Burns, actually shine a stage-like spotlight on her. It's almost imperceptible and kind of fits into the overall dreamlike status of the film, where she comes forward for Scotty's sake purposefully. Scotty feels like he's very clever voyeur detective that's able to track her. So this entire time that we're bonded with him because we're also audience members wanting to know what's happened. Where Gavin Elster's playing the role of the director in the film, where he's coached Judy to become an actress, to transform herself. There's the subtext of economic disadvantage throughout of Judy not being able to take care of herself, so this powerful, very wealthy man is able to provide for her and force her to behave in a certain way. So by the end of the film, when Scotty's replicating that, we've seen that it's come full circle. That him being duped throughout it leads him to become enraged, and then he feels he has the right to also abuse her at the end of the film. So the whole salon scene is one of the most horrifying scenes, I think. This calls back also to the opening moments in the film, Saul Bass credit logos at the start, where you see Judy's face dissected and cut up in parts, which fits into the overall abuse issue of the film, but also the idea that there's a hidden meaning behind her. Like I believe at the start, we see like the side of her face, we see her lips, we see an eyeball, letting us know that there's something else behind this as well. On another level, this is also Hitchcock exposing obviously his own fantasies and tastes that he may have felt were universal. It's hard to say. Obviously, he's not very interested in Midge. Midge being a representation of a modern woman in the film. So Midge is open about sex. She's a working woman, she's self-reliant, she's independent, and yet Scotty has no sexual interest in her whatsoever. And instead of, in broadcasting that through dialogue, there's a really kind of depressing moment where he says in the second scene of the film, oh, we were engaged, but you're the one that called it off. And he just said that composition looking down, we're always seeing Midge kind of look up, and we know that wasn't the story at all. That this guy is already fantasizing, he's created a fiction of some kind. So like Hitchcock, Scotty, as the main character, is someone that prefers image and illusion more so than he prefers actuality or what it would be like to be a real woman. Because he's also not interested in Judy at the end of the film either, where Judy is also portrayed as a modern woman. She's earthy, she's scrambling more so than the Midge character is in terms of taking care of herself, so I understand why she would have fallen prey to Elster. But we also sympathize with her on that count, where all Scotty wants is kind of to recreate this woman. So another personal thing for Hitchcock is the idea that how much of Tim Novak's performance in the film is Hitchcock trying to recreate Grace Kelly, or the idea that he's always created these women that are idealizations on screen that have no bearing on reality, and is there a destructive tendency in that possibly? Or in the image making of how women are portrayed in our culture, for instance. As sexual objects in these Hollywood films. So Grace Kelly, of course, Hitchcock felt he was responsible for making her image as this incredibly sophisticated, classy, I guess whatever else things to say. We consider Grace Kelly sexy, right? We consider her charming. She's very urbane. So in a way, this film could be interpreted as Hitchcock taking the Judy character it comes from nothing, that you could believe Judy's from Philadelphia, with her accent to a certain extent, and making her into Grace Kelly over the course of the film. And the added layer of it is also that the idea that possibly when Judy is, or Madeline is supposedly possessed in the film, that she's kind of possessed by the ghost of Grace Kelly and her inability to ever live up to that in the director's eyes. So that's a whole nother level. I mean, I think that these are reasons why it's considered a great film. Because if you think about the plot itself, it often doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, again, an officer would create a plot that relies on knowledge that Scotty can't climb a tower to the top step, and that he's going to be on top of the tower and throw his already dead wife off it, and then somehow also manage to escape. So you feel like Hitchcock partly identifies with Gavin Elster in this film, because Gavin Elster is the guy that came up with a ridiculous thriller plot, just like Hitchcock. And then, of course, Gavin Elster just gets away scot-free by the end of the movie, which is also kind of interesting. I think the last thing before I'll pass the microphone around all of you is in the way it's shot. Hitchcock really makes us identify with the Scotty character because he shoots it in the point of view shooting style where the film is largely built, especially in the slow kind of first couple reels of it, where we'll see Scotty see something. Hitchcock will show us the next shot directly through Scotty's eyes, and then Scotty reacts to what he's seen.